We live in a culture saturated with advice, life hacks, and lectures. Yet for all this noise, verbal instruction rarely changes how we act. The writer Paulo Coelho observed that the world is changed by your example, not your opinion. This points to a strange gap in human nature. Why can we listen to brilliant advice and remain unmoved, yet instinctively copy the behaviors we see in others? Influence is not an auditory process, it is a visual one. This pattern often starts at home. Consider the figure of Papa Q Bear, a man who actively avoided delivering long lectures or moralizing sermons to his children. His approach to teaching was silent. Standing by the river, he didn't explain the physics of the line. He simply moved his wrist to cast the lure over the water, letting his student watch. That act of watching transferred more than a physical skill. Observing his quiet focus by the water instilled traits like patience and responsibility. Steady, daily behavior acts like water carving a path through stone. It builds character traits that sporadic verbal advice cannot reach. This dynamic is supported by decades of psychological research, notably Bandura's 1961 Bobo doll experiment. Bandura developed social learning theory, which explains how we learn by observing others. In his study, children watched an adult strike an inflatable doll. When left alone, they mimicked that aggression with striking accuracy. However, when the adults modeled peaceful, non-aggressive behavior, the children mirrored that peace. We are biologically wired as observation machines. We instinctively copy the actions of those in our environment to understand how to navigate. This creates a constant tension for any leader. Preaching virtue while quietly bending the rules creates a conflict that instantly destroys trust. People believe what they see, not what they are told. It is easy to hold an opinion. Coelho used the metaphor of a ship being safest when it is in the port, but ships are built for the open ocean. As the tether snaps, modeling behavior requires the vulnerability of leaving the harbor. It involves the risk of being seen and the possibility of failing in public view. Demanding courage from others while safely docked in the harbor weakens the power of your words. Stepping out of the port to take observable action is the way to gain authentic credibility. We see this on a historical scale with Mahatma Gandhi. His observable choices, like living simply and rejecting violence, carried more weight than any speech. Martin Luther King Jr. aligned his verbal demands for justice with physical marches. His actions gave his message its power. This principle is vital in mundane moments. A parent who snaps in traffic causes damage, but that same parent earns respect by stopping to openly apologize to their child. Making mistakes in front of others is not a failure. It is an opportunity to show how accountability works in real time. Influence isn't about maintaining a flawless image. It's about providing those who watch you with an example of how to handle being imperfect. Coelho suggested that the metric for a successful life is the willingness to fall down 7 times and get up 8. This resilience works best as a public act. Others need to witness the recovery for the lesson to take hold. When you take risks and visibly recover from failure, you give those around you the permission to do the same. To change the behavior of a family or a community, you must stop issuing directions from the safety of the shore. Tying back to the lesson by the river, the way to teach someone how to navigate life is not to hand them a map, but to show them how to cast the line.